Welcome back, class, to Lesson 3. Let's review the sounds that we had on Voweltown. Let's start at the top. Today I'm going to say the top 3 smiles. I want you to say them after me. If we start with this smile sound, our mouth will be in a big smile and our teeth will be very close together. I'll say the top 3. You and your teacher say them after me. Are you ready? E, I, E. You say that. Let's say the bottom 3. Watch. A, You say that. Let's drop our mouth wide open and say the open sound. Ah. Let's bring our chin up and make the 3 circle sounds. Are you ready? O, oo. Let's say our 2 taxi sounds. I, you. Ow, oi. Good job. Today we're going to talk about how to spell these sounds. And our spellings are going to fall into 4 categories. So we're going to let these buses represent our categories. We're going to say there's going to be a category that we will call the sound bus, a category called the name bus, a set of vowels called the buddies, the buddy bus, and some that ride the R bus. So we're going to have 4 categories of spelling. Those that make their sound, those that say their name, those that are buddies, 2 ways of spelling the same sound, and those that are R vowels that have an R with them. Let's begin with the sound and name bus. You've been practicing naming those 5 vowel letters. Could you tell your teacher right now what the 5 vowel letters are in the alphabet? The 5 vowel letters are A, E, I, O, U. But there's something I want you to know about these vowel letters. If they have an E with them, they get to have a sound like their name. For example, if you saw this in the alphabet and you went to say the name of that letter, you would say A. Well, when this letter comes up next to that letter, it gets to have a sound like its name. Let's think of a little trick to help us remember that. I like to think of this guy as, what's your name, E? He's always asking that question over and over and over. You might know somebody like that who's just very curious, wants to know everybody's name, and he's always saying, hi, what's your name? Hi, what's your name? And then coming back because he forgot and saying, what's your name? Well, think of him as an irritating little character that's always asking that question, what's your name? If he comes up to this letter and he says, what's your name? This letter has to answer and make what sound? It would make the A sound like its name. Let's try it with another vowel. What if this guy came up? What's he always asking? What's your name? What if he comes up to this vowel? He's going to ask his question. He's going to say, what's your name? And this vowel has to answer with the name it has in the alphabet, which would be I. You and your teacher can practice putting what's your name E next to each vowel and seeing if you can figure out its sound, because you know what this character is always asking. He's always saying, what is your name? Here are some vowel letters that already have what's your name E with them. I'll put them in the same order. A, E, I, O, U. Now we know that these vowels can have a sound like their name because of this what's your name E that has joined them. And he's just always asking that question, what is your name? And this vowel has to answer and say A. Here's what's your name E saying, what's your name? And he has to answer and say E. So now we have two categories of vowels. Those that can ride the name bus, why? Because they say their name. And those that ride the sound bus. These do not have a sound like their name. Now you're going to help me place these vowel spellings where they belong on Vowel Town. So let's take off our first vowel from the name bus. You can tell your teacher the sound this makes because you know what E is doing. It's saying, what's your name? And this letter has to answer. Tell your teacher the sound of this letter combination. The sound for this is A. Now, in order to decide where A lives on Vowel Town, the quick and easy way is simply look at the shape of my mouth. Is it smiling, wide open, a circle? Is it moving? That will help us know which category to go to. So take a look at A. What shape is it? A. Did you say smile? Then we're headed to Smile Hill. I'm going to say the top 3 smiles, and you're going to tell your teacher if you think A lives in one of those houses. Here we go. E, I, E. Does A live in one of those houses? Tell your teacher. I'm going to say the bottom 3 smiles. Decide if A lives in one of these houses. A, Does A live in one of these houses? Tell your teacher. A lives in the first house. A. Good job. Now let's deliver E to its house. What will you look for? Look for the shape first so you know which category of vowel town it lives in. Watch my mouth shape for this sound. E. Did it have a smile, open, or circle? It was another smile shape, wasn't it? I'll say the top 3 smiles, and you tell me if it lives in one of those houses, or you tell your teacher. Ready? E, I, E. Does E live in one of those houses? It lives in the first house, doesn't it? So we'll place our E. Let's check another sound on the name bus. Tell your teacher the sound that this makes. You know that the E makes the vowel say its name. It's always saying, what's your name? So tell your teacher what sound this would be. The sound is I. When we say that sound, does our mouth have one shape or 2? Watch. I. It has 2 shapes, doesn't it? So where are we going to put it? Does it go on a hill or one of the taxis? It's one of the taxis for sure. And this is where I goes. Here's our next what's your name sound. Tell your teacher what sound this would make. Because he's always asking that question, you can figure this sound out. This is O. And what shape is our mouth when we say O? It's a circle shape, isn't it? So let's take it to our circle hill, and I'll go up circle hill and you decide which house it belongs in. O, U. Which spot do you think O belongs in? Belongs in that first spot, doesn't it? And our final bus sound, name bus sound, is U. Did that sound have one shape or 2 shapes? U. It had 2 shapes, didn't it? Watch them again. U. So if it has 2 shapes, it belongs on a taxi, and it goes on this taxi. All right, you have unloaded the name bus. Those are all sounds you can figure out if you can remember that E makes the vowel say its name. And we think of that E as, what's your name, E? Because he's always asking that question. Let's take away our name bus now. And I want you to notice something before we unload our sound bus. I want you to notice that what's your name, E, begins each category of the vowel town. You can figure this sound out, and when you say E, your mouth is ready for the top 3 smile sounds. E, I, E. You can figure this sound out because of what's your name, E, and when you say A, your mouth is ready for the bottom 3 smile sounds. A, What's your name, E, starts our circle category, and when you say O, your mouth is ready for the 3 circle sounds. O, oo. And of course, we have our 2 taxis. And so our taxis begin with what's your name, E. I, you. And some people think I comes before you, and it helps them to remember that. All right, now let's unload our sound bus. We're going to do the same process. We're going to make the sound, and we're going to check our mouth shape and decide which house it lives in. So, my first question for you, class, is, can this vowel have a sound like its name? Why or why not? Tell your teacher right now. This vowel cannot say its name because it doesn't have what's your name, E, with it. If it had E with it, then it could say its name, A, but E is not with it, so it cannot have a sound like its name. Do you have a sound in mind for this? The sound of this letter without what's your name, E, is A. What shape is my mouth for that sound? Did you decide it was a smile shape? Let's go to Smile Hill. I'll make the top 3 smile sounds. You tell me if you think A lives in one of those houses. Ready? E, I, E. Does A live in one of those places? No. Let's try the bottom 3. A, Does A live in one of those houses? Yes, it belongs in the second. A. This is where A lives. Let's try another vowel sound. This is a very tricky vowel sound. It's hard for a lot of us. The sound this makes is E. What shape is my mouth for that sound? It's smiling, isn't it? So let's go to the smile sounds and you decide which house it lives in. E, I, E. Did you decide it lived in this house? That's correct. Some people think it sounds a lot like A, but let me show you the difference. E, A. Did you see how that mouth dropped more open for the A sound? So E lives up here. Our next vowel sound, think. Do you have a sound in mind for this letter? The sound is I. What shape is my mouth when I say I? It's smiling again, isn't it? I'll say the top 3 smiles, and you decide if it lives in one of those spots. Are you ready? E, I, E. Lives right in that blank spot, doesn't it? Next vowel sound. Do you have a sound in mind for this? This letter stands for Ah. Is the mouth still smiling? Or has that chin dropped way down? Ah. So that is a wide open sound, a different neighborhood. And we'll go down here to our wide open valley. Our final sound on the sound bus is this letter. And what sound do you think of for this? The sound of this letter is Ah. What shape do you think the mouth is when I say Now, some people think it's way open, that it might be a wide open sound like this. But let me help you compare. Here's a wide open sound, Was wide open like this or still trying to smile? It was still trying to smile. So is way at the end of our smile hill, very close to and that's why that can sometimes be confusing. All right, let's take our sound bus away now. You have unloaded your sound bus and your name bus. Let's say our top 3 smiles again. You know this sound. What is it? Say them after me. I'll say them first. E, I, E. You say them. You know this sound that starts the bottom 3 smiles. Think of it. I'll say the bottom 3 smiles. A, You do that. Good job.